today we will be talking about another one of my favorite supernatural cases that involves unexplained paranormal phenomena, and that is the case of Skinwalker Ranch. Now, Skinwalker Ranch is super well known and has been investigated by numerous supernatural researchers over the years. Skinwalker Ranch, also known as Sherman Ranch, is a large piece of property located southeast of Ballard, Utah, in the Uintah Basin. The approximate size of the ranch is 512 acres. The ranch has experienced paranormal activity such as UFOs, crop circles, aliens, cattle mutilations, fireballs, orbs, weird sounds and vibrations, radiation spikes, and lastly, strange creatures and oversized animals with red eyes. The name Skinwalker Ranch comes from the Navajo legend, which revolves around a vengeful, malevolent, shape-shifting spirit that the Native Americans call a skinwalker. The first family to live on the ranch and turn it into a homestead was the Meyer family. They built a few small buildings on the northwest corner of the property, which was the main homestead in the beginning. The section of land was later abandoned, and the Meyer family established a new home on the eastern side of the ranch. The Meyers stayed on the land until 1987, and during the whole time the Meyer family lived on the property, they never reported any unusual or strange occurrences. However, strange occurrences started to happen to other parts of the Uintah Basin and continue on today. The biggest paranormal phenomena to occur in the Uintah Basin is UFO sightings. Hundreds of UFO sightings, including strange aircraft ranging in size from 20 to 30 feet across to the size of a football field. Some crafts are even shaped like cigars, while others are round, oval, or even triangle shaped. Some of the crafts have glowing green lights surrounding it, while others have a very large blue glowing light in the very center of it. In the 1970s, the Utah Highway Patrol was getting such a large amount of UFO calls that the troopers stopped filling out reports. Around this same time, local ranchers started to experience cattle mutilations on their farms. Joseph Jr. Hicks, who was a retired science teacher in Utah, investigated over 400 UFO sightings in the Uintah Basin, and he discovered that the UFO appearances coincided with cattle mutilations. In 1994, Skinwalker Ranch was purchased by Terry and Gwen Sherman, and it had stood empty for over 7 years after being vacated by the previous owners, the Meyers. The Shermans moved their 2 children and their livestock to the property. Once moved in, the family was shocked to discover that the previous owners had actually placed deadbolt locks on all the doors and windows of the home, and some of the locks were also on the outside of the house. The first day the family was on the property, they noticed a very large wolf inside one of their pastures, which was slowly approaching the livestock pen. The wolf looked to be at least double the size of a normal wolf. The wolf grabbed one of the calves by the nose and began to drag it through the corral bars. Terry and his father began to beat the animal to try to get it to release the calf, but they were unsuccessful. When that failed, Terry shot the animal with a .357 Magnum at point-blank range, but the gunshot did not seem to affect the animal at all. The wolf continued to hold onto the calf, and Terry then shot it again, and with this shot, the wolf released the calf, but stood in place looking calmly at Terry and his father. After shooting at the animal a couple more times, the wolf trotted off. Terry stated that the animal did not leave any blood behind, and the only sign of injury was a piece of meat that had seemed to have been blown off the animal during one of the last shots. Terry reported that when they discovered the piece of meat, it looked fresh and had a little bit of blood on it. The men then followed the tracks of the animal for about a mile before the tracks suddenly ended, and it was as if the animal just vanished in thin air. When the men started back to the homestead, they came back to where the piece of meat had been and noticed that it now looked dried up and almost completely decayed, and it smelt bad. It looked as if it had been there for at least a week, if not more. A few weeks later, Gwen was in her car when she too encountered this same wolf creature. The animal was so large that Gwen noted that its back was parallel with the top of her window. The wolf was also accompanied by another dog-like animal that Gwen had never seen before. Over the next 2 years, the Sherman family, as well as their neighbors, would report seeing many strange-looking animals in the area, including exotic, bright-colored birds that were not native to that area, and tall, dark-colored beasts that looked similar to Bigfoot. One day, the Shermans spotted a hyena-looking creature that was attacking one of their horses. They described it as being low to the ground and having many muscles. Terry approached the animal to get it to stop attacking the horse, but before he could get too close, the animal vanished right before his eyes. Terry then checked the horse and found numerous claw marks on the horse's legs. A few months later, one of the Shermans' neighbors spotted the exact same animal running across their property. Aside from the strange animal sightings, the Shermans also had their fair share of UFO sightings, as well as strange lights. One evening they spotted more than a dozen strange lights in the night sky. Around the same time, the Shermans lost 7 of their best cows, 4 of which just up and disappeared, and the other 3 were found dead and partially mutilated. One of the cows had a hole in the center of its left eyeball, but was otherwise untouched. Another cow was found with a similar hole in the left eye, but also had a 6-inch hole about an inch deep, which had been carved out of the cow's rectum. The third cow had been seen by Terry's son just 5 minutes before it died and was found with a 6-inch wide, 18-inch deep hole cored out of its rectum that extended into the body cavity. On all 3 dead cows, there was no sign of any blood, and a chemical odor was present near the cows. There was also no footprints or tire tracks present. Some of the other strange activity that the Shermans experienced on the ranch included having parts of the pastures that would just unexplainably light up at night. Sounds of heavy machinery could also be heard that seemed to be coming from under the ground. Around the Shermans' house, poltergeist activity, such as items disappearing and then reappearing later, would occur. One day when Terry and his son was working on the fence, the post hole digger that they were using disappeared right after they sat it down. A few hours later, the post hole digger was found posted up in a tree 20 or 30 feet up. Another day, when Gwen had returned home with a bunch of groceries, which she had put away in the cabinets, she returned from the car to find that all the groceries were back in their bags, sitting on top of the countertop. The Shermans also experienced hearing strange, disembodied voices, which oftentimes could not be understood because they were in another language, as well as crop circles which were found on the ground outside. The final straw for the Sherman family was on May 1996 when Terry was outside with 3 of his dogs when he noticed a blue orb that was darting around the field near his house. Terry's dogs then started to bark after it and decided to chase it into some heavy brush. Terry then heard his dogs start to make terrible yipping sounds, and when he called for them, they did not return or respond. The next morning when Terry went to look for the 3 dogs, he found 3 greasy areas on the grass where it had appeared to have been scorched, and Terry never saw his dogs again. After 2 full years of this kind of activity, the family decided to publicly speak out about what they were experiencing. Their stories appeared in the Las Vegas Mercury as a series of articles by journalist George Knapp. George Knapp became a key player in the research at Skinwalker Ranch because of his journalistic capabilities. Knapp co-authored a book in which he detailed the earlier investigations into the UFO sightings in the Uintah Basin, as well as the vanishing of cattle and cattle mutilations. Once the Shermans decided to sell their property, Robert Bigelow, a millionaire and businessman and a true believer in ufology and the founder of the National Institute for Discovery Science, purchased the property from them. Bigelow bought the ranch for $200,000, but had the Shermans sign a non-disclosure agreement that stated that they would not discuss the events that had unfolded on the ranch during their time there with anyone. Bigelow then started to establish a compound on the ranch with state-of-the-art high-tech sensing equipment, PhD-level field investigators, scientists, and security detail on the property. The property was then investigated thoroughly by Bigelow's investigators who were looking for evidence of anything paranormal. The National Institute of Discovery Science was quickly replaced with Bigelow's Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, or BAASS. This new company had a much more secretive plan and was working towards having government sponsorship. In 2007, the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, which was a secret investigatory effort funded by the Department of Defense, was created to study unidentified flying objects, primarily on Skinwalker Ranch. Over the next 3 years, $22 million was spent on this program. This shadowy program was funded at the request of Harry Reid, who was the Nevada Democrat, who was also the Senate Majority Leader at the time, and who had interest in space and unidentified phenomena. All of this information was, of course, not publicly known at the time, but was finally released by the New York Times in 2017. To this day, many parts of the study that was done at Skinwalker Ranch remains classified, and the Department of Defense has never officially acknowledged its existence. In 2012, the Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies lost all of its funding from the DoD, and the contract expired. In 2016, the ranch was later sold for $4.5 million to Adamantium Holdings. The new owners put a huge fence around the whole property to keep trespassers out, and to this day, no one is allowed on the property, and no one knows what continues to go on there. So this is the part of the video where I give my honest opinion about the case. And with this one, simply put, I believe that most of the paranormal and unexplained occurrences that is happening in that part of Utah is real. I think that it revolves around otherworldly phenomena, and because of that, we just can't begin to explain it. I also think that the government has a pretty big hand in what goes on there now. Not that any of us will know about it since the whole place has been sealed up, but nevertheless, it's super interesting. Well guys, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed this creepy, disturbing case. I know that I myself love this story, and I would absolutely love to go there one day, even if I cannot get onto the ranch itself. If you guys enjoyed this kind of video, please consider subscribing, as this is the kind of content that I love to create. And if you want to see more videos like this one, please hit the like button. I also wanted to thank every single one of my current subscribers for being a part of this weird and interesting family, and I would also like to welcome any new subscribers. As always, thank you so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!